This is going to be kind of a different presentation that we have going on. So I am introducing the premier #1 low quality shitcoin on Cardano. Let's bring the team up on stage. Give them a round of applause.
Good?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I know you may have expected this slot to revolve all about Hosky, and while it may be called the go-to doggo meme token on Cardano, today's focus is going to be a little bit different, so not a lot of barking on my end. We're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about the real heroes that keep Cardano running. These aren't fancy projects or flashy tokens. They're the stake pool operators, or as we call them, the heart of Cardano. Think of Cardano like a giant machine. It's got a mission to change how the world sees and uses money and to make things fairer for everybody. But a mission is just words unless there's some hardworking machinery behind it. And that's where our SPOs come in. They're the nuts and bolts, you can say, the gears that keep our machine moving smoothly. Sure, you've probably heard all about the brainy stuff Cardano is made out of, all the research, peer review, science, and fancy tech. But behind all that are real people, like the ones you see behind me at this moment, from all walks of life, here to working hard to make sure Cardano keeps functioning. So today isn't about one project or one token. It's about giving a big shout out to these behind-the-scenes folks. We'll dive into their stories, but some myths about being an SPO and show you that you don't need heaps of money to make an impact on Cardano. So without further ado, Hero, take it over.
Whoa, Hosky, thanks, man. So I'm Brian, I'm from Hero Pool. How's everybody doing today? It's good to see everybody out in the crowd. So I've been an SPO for 2 years. I run Cardano over coffee. I'm a volunteer fireman, and I work in crypto full time. So this is my life, hanging out with all you Web3 folks, and I enjoy it. Sitting next to me is my friend Steve. Steve, why don't you please introduce yourself?
Hey guys, I'm Steve from Salt Pool. Yeah, I've been an SPO for quite a bit since the ITN days. And I have a background in the tech industry, working as a support engineer. Yeah, no, absolutely love being an SPO, love the Hosky crew, and yeah, that's me, Salt Pool.
I'm Niels with Hazelpool. I'm Director of Development at a business process management company, which sounds very dry. So I was very happy to, join with the DGens in 2021, creating a stake pool for the most part, just to find out about Cardano. And well, it's 2 years later now, and here I am.
Hey, my name is Guillermo. I'm the operator of the Aspen stake pool. I also run the Cardano and blockchain education channel, Woodland Pools. See what else? I'm a Cardano ambassador and full stack developer at book.io. I think I'm also one of the newest rug pools, and so very excited to have my personal value go down to 0 with all of you, and very happy to be here. So yeah.
Yeah, it's great to hear from all you guys. So I want to just have a little conversation with you, ask some questions, and we'll find out what it's like to be an SPO in Cardano and how maybe you can become an SPO. So Steve, let's start with you since you're closest to me, right? We'll make you the first victim.
Okay.
How did you come across Cardano?
Oh man, that's a good question. So yeah, in around 2012, I was introduced to Bitcoin and didn't really do much. I had a buddy that sent me like 0.05 Bitcoin and said, "Hey, take this. This is what it is." Figured out. Didn't know what would come of it. 2016 started asking a couple more questions, and then I heard about Ethereum, got into Ethereum, and dabbled in that community for a little bit, and started to see some of the flaws in there, and I was just looking for something fresh, and I started to hear more about Charles Hoskinson and Cardano, and it in passing, just talking with some friends, and I was like, hey, I'm going to check this out. So I checked it out and heard about the proof of stake concept. I knew somebody that was running a proof of stake node on another chain at the time, and I was like, well, this hasn't launched as proof of stake yet, so let's dig in a little further and see what it's all about. Heard that there was potential to stake, and so I just got ready for that. And I had some a little bit of background in DevOps work, but not a ton. And I decided when the ITN launched, I was like, I'm going to give this a go. Why not? Let's play around with it. And it was more for me. It was more the thrill of learning something new and like learning, just how to run the whole thing and experimenting. And then I just kind of fell in love with it, really enjoyed it, and kind of just
Here
I am today. Yeah, I don't know, maybe a little bit more than you asked, but.
So what initially sparked the SPO idea for you? Like, was it because the ITN was coming out, or what gave you the motivation to jump in there?
Yeah, I mean, again, it was I liked the idea of being able to create something and to manage something and kind of just kind of have ownership over something, right? And that's what this is all about. It's really kind of owning a piece of something larger, owning a piece of the blockchain. And for me, I wanted to be able to, not only own something, but actually have perhaps an income stream from that. And incentivized blockchain is a beautiful thing, and here we are. I think that was really it. I just wanted to be able to own something and be able to have, to be able to generate an income stream from it.
Well, that's an awesome story, and
Thanks, man.
being there from the ITN to now, and you're a Hosky rug pool, and
yeah, it was rough, man. ITN. I wasn't like it's not like I was a successful pool in the ITN. I really wasn't, but what I learned was far more valuable. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Let's pass that mic to Niles. I think I got some hard-hitting questions for him. Are you ready?
I have to be, always.
I'm glad you're ready. So when you initially became an SPO, what was the initial challenge that faced you that you had to overcome?
Well, the initial challenge back when I started was definitely what does this technically require me to do? That was also the reason why I started, is because I wanted to learn about some of the technical aspects on Cardano before I start, doing something in it. And that was a perfect kind of hybrid of I can learn something about the ecosystem and about the technology, and at the same time I can give value back right away, right? It's not just, I'm off to the side for a half year learning the technology until I can do anything, but within the course of a month you can actually start participating in the network in a way that actually provides value to hundreds, and back then thousands and tens of thousands of users. And so the initial challenge was, how does this all work? Like all these words, I had not been, unlike Steve, I had not been in blockchain before. Essentially Cardano was my first larger exposure to blockchain. So for me it was not only, learning the Cardano specifics, but learning blockchain technology from the ground up. Like I didn't have any knowledge about the account model or UTXOs and what all that is. So I started from zero, and so that was really a great learning experience. And even then, not the ITN times, there was really great documentation from a variety of sources, including IOG itself and some of their engineers, as well as just open guides, right? We all know Stack Overflow, that's where we go for answers in the world. And there's sources like that. And that was the biggest challenge from the beginning. Yeah. Funny enough, it's changed over time.
Yeah, absolutely, it's changed over time. But what advice would you give to somebody that they were starting out today and they were new and just your story today? What advice would you give them?
Don't hesitate. Just start doing it. It may sound scary in the beginning, and it depends also on your background a little bit, but we have a really wide variety of people on Cardano that are running stake pools. It's not just the nerds that have been working in IT for 20 years. We've had people that are just interested in learning the technology and just use that as a motivation to essentially go and test it out. And so what I would suggest is do not sit down and try to learn Cardano for a half year, like I said earlier, but just go. You can create a stake pool within a matter of hours, essentially, on the test net. You have no risk to yourself. You don't have to put any money in. You can just start exploring. And so that would be probably my biggest advice is just go do it, start and see. If it's a fit, if you enjoy it, then you can explore further as in what does it mean to run a stake pool.
Yeah, I echo that. Just go do it. That's how I also started. I had no experience in running a pool before, but the documentation, as you had noted earlier, is there any specific documentation that you feel that really helped you out?
I don't even know if that exists anymore, but there was a course by one of the, I think Federico, one of the engineers at IOG, that was really helpful. And then the other thing that I used, in addition to just general server management, I mean, I've worked with servers for a long time, but it's changing over time, and security models and all of that, you want to stay up to date. But the Coin Cashew guide, that was really useful for me, kind of as an additional source of information to run. And then as you go and get into the ecosystem, these folks, those are the ones you ask, because that is part of what makes being an SPO on Cardano so great. Is like I have literally never reached out to anybody and they would say like, I don't have time for you. People that run stake pools as well as that just do stuff in the ecosystem are super willing to help. Like they are full time, super busy, and you know it. You ask them a question, hey, do you have an answer for that? And they will be like, oh yeah, sure. And there's Telegram groups, Twitter groups, so there's literally no chance you can't get help. The only time you wouldn't get help is if you don't ask.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to quickly add, you're absolutely right. In fact, Salt Pool wouldn't exist if it weren't for the community of SPOs that were just curious. I remember when Charles was giving a Q&A or some sort of presentation online, and he said, hey, we're gonna create a Word doc to just kind of put ideas down, and then we're going to create a Telegram channel where everybody can talk. That Telegram channel still exists today. So if you go on there, you can go in there and just ask questions. And there's some great guys in there. I think Kyle hangs out in there. I see him in the back. But guys like him and there's I think Homer's on there. There's just people will answer questions if you have them, and don't be afraid to ask. I think everybody here has benefited from just being able to ask questions, and I think that's kind of part of the community, is being able to share that knowledge.
Absolutely, I couldn't echo the sentiment any more than you guys. I got one more victim down there. So, what's up? So we're gonna kind of just go back. Can you tell me your journey into Cardano and your journey into an SPO and how that, as a new Hosky reg pool, I'm kind of curious because I haven't heard that story yet, so.
Oh yeah, totally. So, let me see. So I was a web developer for a long time, and part of that, like anything else, kind of like what Niels was saying, it's like, in development, it's not a career for somebody who ever wants to feel like they've mastered anything, right? Because you're constantly, as your sphere of what you learn grows, the more you realize that you don't know, right? There's like that graph online where you think you know everything, and then you realize like, oh, I know nothing, kind of thing. And so with that, it sort of became like similar to what Niels was saying. Like as I got interested in Cardano from like an investment standpoint, I was like, okay, that the part of me that like as a developer, I was like, well, I want to understand a little more deeply how this whole thing works. And so the first part of that was then digging into, okay, well, what does the validation of blocks look like, and the consensus mechanisms and all that, and how's it actually working? And then hearing about proof of stake compared to proof of work. And so I started looking into that and finding a lot of the different resources that these guys were talking about. And there's so many too, depending on like your personal style of like how you like to learn things, because there's a lot of like those things that are documented if you like to read through stuff. Then there's also the guy who runs the Eden stake pool. He's got like some really good stuff on his Eden Garden Pool page. I actually watched like his videos, and I was like, okay, like let's check it. And I chat with him regularly. Like that's the thing too. Like I just reach out to him, and he's like super friendly guy or whatever. And I just watched it, and I was like, well, that doesn't seem that bad, in terms of like what you need to like do. And it's, I kind of like, just went through that process and literally like you're saying, it's kind of just followed along, did it step by step. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is like super approachable, right? Like, and, because I had done software development for a long time, but had not done specifically like server management and that kind of things. I'm like, oh, this would be a good challenge of a new thing to learn to get really good at, right? And also learning at another layer of a thing that you're investing your time and money and like energy into, right? So that's kind of like how that happened. And then from there, I was like, okay, cool. So now I understand, and that was like about 2 years ago. I was like, okay, so now I understand how block validation and consensus and all of that stuff works. And I was like, I wonder how the like on-chain validators work. And then that's when I transitioned from being like a web developer into a blockchain developer. Was kind of like, then like, okay, let's go one layer deeper now. And like when these blocks are being sent out, like what is it, like how do the transactions that get validated that make it to those blocks, how does that work? And that's kind of like scratching that itch is how I got into becoming a full stack developer. And then through the channel has been really good. Through the Woodland Pools channel has been a good way to kind of like stay up to speed on all these different projects going on. And that's how I heard about Book.io. I was covering them on the channel for 6 months before I even applied. And then I've been with them since February. And similarly, I've been covering Hosky since the inception of the project. And then when some rug pools opened up, I was talking with Pride Pool, who I've known for a while now, and asking him some questions about like, all right, what's it really like working with all these degens? Like, for real. Like, you seem like a pretty cool dude. Like, what's it like working with these guys, And he said only bad things about you guys. And I was like, all right, cool, let's do it, So, yeah, so that's kind of how that worked out.
Yeah, I think him and Vegas always talk crap on all the other pools, but
yeah.
Whatever. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah,
So can you, what advice would you give somebody to start now? We heard Nowzy said don't hesitate.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment that it's interesting how like there's this like idea of a lot of these things, especially like these new concepts, seem like unapproachably difficult. Or you get hit with this like, especially like in any kind of like technical field, you get hit with this imposter syndrome of like, oh no, they know what they're doing. Like I have no idea. But then there's one of the things I talk about a lot in the channel where it's like, every expert that you see that's like a master in their field at some point started at the spot that you're at right now where you're kind of like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I want to find out about this thing. It's that analogy, right? That cliche of like every marathon starts with one first step kind of thing, right? It's the same idea, right? Like they got to that point from doing this thing every day and asking questions and it's not that different from like learning a foreign language. Like from like being okay with sounding dumb and knowing that like you might not, you might say a silly thing and that's okay. But then on top of it, being in a community like Cardano where people are so friendly and so willing to help is very refreshing. Because then when you realize that they're like, dang, I don't know where to go from here, there's so many resources of like friendly people that are willing to help out. So yeah, I'd say just like,
lovely to meet you, the actual Hosky.
Take a look at the at some of these different materials that are out there, and there's a whole bunch of them. Get involved in some of these chats, like ask some questions, and yeah, spin up a testnet node and just see how it goes and see how you like it, And it's yeah, the best way to know. It's the same advice like when people like say they want to be like a developer. It's like the best way to know is like build a little toy project, and if you like get really excited when you figured out how to solve a stupid bug, then this might be for you. And if not, then it's probably not your thing. You know what I mean? But similarly, like if you get super excited when you see like your testnet node like syncing for the first time, you're like, yes! It's like, all right, man, then yeah, that might be an itch you want to continue scratching, So, yeah.
Hey,
So, and this, I'm going to ask all three of you this question, so if you just want to go right down the line. Can you talk a little bit about what you think the future of being a stake pool operator is going to entail and how that may change over the future?
Everyone out there's probably heard of Wi-Fi.
Just in your own thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's pretty, I mean, it's fairly open-ended in terms of where it could go. I'll keep my part short and then I'll give it to these guys. But I think it'll be interesting to see the different opportunity, because right now, basically, a stake pool, what it is the consensus mechanism for the network, right? Which is really important. And for anybody that's a delegator, like your delegation, the reason why you're being rewarded with ADA is because you are actively participating in the security and validation of the network. So that's already great. But then on top of that, it's like, so what are the other things that like stake pools can do? And I think what's gonna be really interesting is looking at how like layer 2s and side chains and things like that can provide the same layer 1 security that Cardano provides, and then use these validators that you already have that the network participants are putting their trust in, and not doing that so that other layer 2 and side chain things can then get those security benefits from it. Things like Midnight, some of these other things that have been talked about. And I think that'll be really interesting to see how those like additional monetization strategies come in, but then also for the operators, but then the quote unquote like sort of free security that some of these newer projects can get from inheriting the layer 1
for half an
battle-tested
hour, right?
security and and validation that's been going on for a while.
Is there a
Yeah, I think,
beeper?
you
Like
know,
someone needs to shut me up.
you nailed it on the head, the layer 2 and what a stake pool, because you're building a reputation as you're
Yeah, that'd
creating
be
those
perfect.
blocks for Cardano now. So now you could take that reputation that you built off of Cardano and move it onto a layer 2. I think.
Yeah,
Right, because the layer
even-
2 is then
just
start
5
from
minutes would be
scratch. It's like, well, it's the same exact idea with Mithril and Mithril aggregators, right? Where it's like, okay, well, all right, well, we need people to put together snapshots, and then the snapshots to be aggregated. Like, who are we going to trust to do this? It's like, oh, right, the people that are already doing this stuff anyway with blocks and validation of the network. So I think it's going to be that kind of stuff of just like vertically stacking those things.
Yeah. What's your thoughts there, boss?
I have a little, not a different take, but just a different angle that you can essentially approach this with. We're less talking about like blockchain and enhancing other like side chains or other projects, but I also think there is an opportunity for businesses to use the stake pools or stake pools to become businesses that are offering other things. So this is what one of the things I do is essentially offer a service
Yeah, I know,
through
that's why I'm
delegation
killing
that you
myself.
get cheaper if you do delegate. So and it is
That's the
kind
only
of
reason I'm nervous.
an
Couldn't care about anything else.
unprecedented business
Sorry, that
model
was
where
real Australianism.
you provide your ADA to the stake pool, you stake it, it's fully in your custody. I will get rewarded more because I now have more stake in the network because you put your trust in this pool. And so my rewards will be higher. You will get something for it. And in addition, I can provide you something that you would normally have to pay for. You know, in my case, Vibrant, the Discord bot. And that concept is just so foreign to a lot of people because it's you get
You look so
money,
relaxed.
I get money, and you get a service, and there is literally no downside unless you're not working with a pool operator that does their job correctly. And there is a lot of potential for real businesses to come in and leverage that as well. Because when you're running a stake pool, you're running infrastructure for the network. That can be used for side chains, but it can also be used for the project itself. So in my case, I can use the infrastructure that I use for the pool and for the block production and all of that for other stuff. So I think that is another way to look at it that doesn't necessarily look at blockchain alone.
Yeah, I think that's a different angle that I don't think that I've really looked at before and kind of have processed in my brain and thought about. But you look at not only them, but you look at organizations like the UNHCR and what they're doing. So what about you, Steve?
Yeah, there's one word that's been tossed around a bit, and it's the word trust. And I think trust goes a long way in this community. In fact, you and I have had a couple conversations recently about this.
Yes,
and with trust and transparency, doors open, opportunities arise. And as an SPO, the future outlook, if you want to grow and stay operational, is going to be able to show that you're trustworthy and be able to show that you're reliable. Running a stake pool operation does take work. It requires updates, it requires maintenance. Hardware requirements increase. You have to know about hardware, whether it be on-prem or cloud-based. You need to know how to upgrade and make sure that you have sufficient hardware to stay afloat. I see the hardware requirements going up in the future, and that is great for the network. It can be tough for the, what are you laughing at over there? Vegas is laughing at us over there. Anyway, I do see a future in which trust is going to be a huge factor in making sure that you can continue to operate as a stake pool operator.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I got one quick question, and just if we can keep it real short, because we're going to get the Hosky mascot back up here and do a little conclusion. But what has Hosky done for you?
Oh, man. Aside from just the SPO stuff, I've met a lot of great friends and a lot of really cool people with the same mindset. And, that's just invaluable. That means a lot to me. What it's done for my pool is obviously it's helped with delegation. It's helped with keep people active with Salt Pool. And it's kind of pushed me a little bit to make sure that I'm continuing to innovate and put myself out there.
Perfect.
But yeah,
Already asked him to do it for me.
Hosky is it. You know, you could joke and say it's a lifestyle. You know,
No, he
but
said someone would.
it's
It's a lifestyle.
that means
it's starting to become that. You know, I saw somebody. I think I at a glance, I think I saw a Hosky tattoo. I mean, like, I'm telling you, there's a lot of people here that are huge fans of the project, and yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, we're running a little short on time, so if we can get the Hosky gentleman back up here, I think he has something that he wants to tell you.
Come on, Hosky.
Hosky.
Probably not.
Hosky. Hosky. Let's give Hosky a round of applause.
Thanks for sticking with us today. We talked a lot about SPOs. We heard their stories, right? Some of you may be considering maybe you want to become an SPO, maybe you don't. It's not for everybody. Here's the thing, though. If you're not a pool operator, you can still help Cardano by choosing where to stake your ADA. Behind me, you'll see 22 pools that you can stake your ADA and earn your ADA like you normally would. These pools also give you additional worthless tokens known as Hosky. So every ADA holder, whether you're in a pool or not, you can play a big role in Cardano. So again, thanks everybody for being today. And you can feel free to take a picture of those stake pools and delegate to them. Let's help decentralize Cardano further. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, if it's the real Hosky. I know, how do you go to your law firm? I'm like, sorry, I have to go dress up as a mascot for Friday. Sorry. Friday's the day off, right?